Hi, I'm Lyle from the Idle Red Hands.
I'm Jeremy from the Idle Red Hands.
And today we're going to be talking about who we think should sit on the Iron Throne. Are we really supposed to be rooting for Daenerys? Prior to those episodes of this season, and of course the Lannisters are bad. I mean, for 6 seasons,
right.
And even into 7, they've kind of nailed that in, driven that point home. And Daenerys is good, and Jon Snow is good, and I guess some people are hoping that they should get married.
That would be a nice
mix.
I guess we'd have 2 incestuous couples
to
deal with.
I guess cousins is okay for
that's true.
royalty.
Like aunt and uncle, right. Or aunt and nephew.
Yeah, she would be his aunt.
Right. So
stranger things have happened. Yeah.
Yes.
But of course, she's always been presented as someone who's very kind, the mother of dragons and the mother of just everybody. And of course, Jon Snow is presented as being like a classic protagonist in that he's not very flawed. If he has a flaw, it's like Ned Stark, where he's too good,
right,
or doesn't see the bad in other people. But watching what's transpired recently, I don't know if this is the intention of the Game of Thrones and the showrunners and the writers, is that they trying to make it a little bit more gray and actually get people to somewhat root for the Lannisters, not just make it so one-sided, like a very black and white. And one way to do that is to make Daenerys more flawed.
Yes, I think so. And they definitely have had scenes that have given some kind of sympathy, even though there's so much around the Lannisters and especially Cersei that's just terrible. They are making her, afraid, and she's being brave. She's doing what her father wanted to do. Like there's things, without any spoilers, there's things that she's moments that she's had that
I think we can't avoid spoilers.
Yeah,
so,
it's going to be
so actually, so please watch up to episode 8 if you want to hear our thoughts on this, because it's really hard to say anything without spoiling what happened.
Will be. Yeah, it will be. Yeah, without.
Again, and she's certainly different than she is in the books. In the books, she's Cersei Lannister has no redeeming qualities, or almost no redeeming qualities.
Right.
She's not smart. She's not respected. And in the TV show, people are now saying is like, she's very cunning. She'll always get what she wants, or she'll figure out a way to get you. I mean, we're hearing that from different characters like Sansa Stark and that.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting. Yeah, so Sansa has respect for her, and so that coupled with her, being the last of her house and wanting to save their house does give you a certain amount of sympathy, even after all the ugliness you've seen her do and her undead giant and everything. Her.
He's not making much of it.
He's not. Yeah.
Like why don't you just throw him against the dragons?
Right.
No one's mentioned him.
That's true. Yeah, I think he
has one appearance.
Right.
But he goes, well, she has 3 dragons, and it's like, well, we've got
this
undead giant. Which is funny. I didn't think about it watching episode 5. When you watch episode 5, they're like, hey, go get an undead person from beyond the wall, and then we'll show that to them, and then they'll be convinced that the undead exist. But the undead already exists in King's Landing in the mountain, so they'll be like, oh, okay, great. Yeah, what else you got?
Right. Yeah, we've seen that.
Like Qyburn can make these guys like nobody's business. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that why? I guess this is a little bit of a spoiler, but is that why Jon Snow is so reluctant to reveal that he's been brought back to life, because he's warning against the undead, and then he's the resurrected?
I think that was clumsily handled.
Yes, it was.
So he took a knife in the heart, and you're like, well, Davos, you kind of should realize that that's not something you want to say, but then it's like super dramatic. It's like, well, he took a knife in the and then she's got to bring it up a couple of times. Oh, was that? And he's and then Jon Snow does it very dramatic, like, oh, clearly I'm about to lie. No, it's a figure of speech, but
Dothraki interrupted.
Yeah. So can somebody walk in, please? Interrupt this.
So it's interesting.
But one thing, they are making the Lannisters smart. So Tyrion has, which made no sense, that plan.
Yes, right.
Because like, don't attack King's Landing, because you don't want to be like attacking innocents or hurting innocents in while you're conquering Westeros.
Right.
So instead of attacking King's Landing, let's send an army to Castlereagh Rock for what, like a bloodless siege, a bloodless attack? Like nobody was going to get killed.
Yeah, it's still still the
It's still something. It's like a
foreign,
city.
it's a foreign army being invading the.
But the Lannisters outsmart them. So I guess Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister outsmart the mighty Tyrion.
Right.
So you're like, oh, you have to respect that. You know, they were one step ahead, and they even have to mention that in episode 5, like you were 3 steps ahead of us.
Right.
So the Lannisters aren't like stupid like they are in. Well, Jaime Lannister in the books is not stupid, but Cersei Lannister is not stupid like she is in the book. Mm-hmm. So they're kind of developing that part of the Lannisters to make it more, I guess, less one-sided.
Yeah, I think so.
But then you also. So what's the solution is then Daenerys takes her dragons. So her answer to everything is going to be like the dragons.
Yeah.
And then you contrast that with like Ned Stark, and they bring that up episode 3 or 4, where Jon Snow says, no, if you're going to execute somebody, you should do it. And of course, right from maybe the first episode of the entire series. Is the leader's got to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But then Daenerys doesn't do that. Her dragons do her killing for her.
Yeah, she mumbles something.
Yeah, sorry. And you can say, well, the dragons are her sword, her extension. Yeah. But no, they're dragons.
Yeah, that's right.
Even if she's the mother of dragons, that would be like Tarly, who gets burned, using his son to kill. Like, stand in front of me when the dragon.
Right.
He's an extension. I'm the father of Dickon. Father of Dickon.
He can take my execution for me.
So, yeah. So, I'm wondering if this is a deliberate attempt by the showrunners to make Daenerys less sympathetic, because it's certainly making her less sympathetic, or making me root a lot less for her than I did previously.
Yeah, and I think building up to this, the show made her a very sympathetic character, and you really wanted to see her, cross the sea, you know, and once she did that, I think they had a lot to kind of slow that down and kind of make
they had 2 more seasons to go.
Right. Yeah, and they definitely had to make that more gray, because you didn't want. I mean, it would be very quickly she would fly dragons to King's Landing, and end of the show, she'd be on the throne in an episode. So.
But I'm wondering if it goes even further back, because in the books, Barristan Selmy is alive, but they've killed him off quite quickly in the TV show. Now Barristan Selmy, like probably more than Jon Snow is, or even Ned Stark is the noblest character there is.
Right.
I guess arguably Davos is more noble, at least in the books. So you take away the most noble person in Daenerys' entourage in Barristan, so she doesn't have him anymore.
Right.
Now she's being advised by Tyrion, Jorah Mormont, who I'm a fan of, but he's a flawed character, and the Spider.
Yeah.
So and I don't know if it's me, or like I'm thinking back to. I was reading the Empire book in Warhammer Fantasy Battle. I'm going to say 5th edition. I think it was Empire was in the main box, so people want to check that. But the army book for Empire that came out, in the very back is like a speech, like an imperial general is giving his troops, saying, that you look across the battlefield and you see they might have dragons and they might have monsters, but we're men, and we've got the courage of man, or people, and then we'll be able to beat them with our courage and our skills and our cannon and stuff like that. And you're looking for from we're all humans, we're all people, and kind of just appealing to when we put our minds to it, like there's nothing we can't do. And it was like that in the movie Noah,
right?
And the antagonist, who's clearly a bad person, but they give him this really good speech where he's talking about how they can oppose God and they can oppose these fallen angels because they're men, people, and there's nothing we can't do if we put our minds to it, which is a very noble thing. I mean, something we all aspire to. And here at the end of the day, I mean, those dragons are burning people.
Yeah.
And you watch them and you see how horrific it is,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
You're supposed to look at these Lannister troops and Tarly troops and going, yeah, that's pretty horrible. These are, although they are in the service of one of the protagonists, these are monsters.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And they had, like, there was that small band of Lannister soldiers that we saw in maybe episode 2. And so, yeah, they humanized those soldiers. So, and then when you saw at the end of episode 4 them being turned to ash inside their armor, that was it was very shocking. And I think, so as things seem to lead up to, a big confrontation between kings and for the Iron Throne, you realize that the author's, basic thought is the war is not a good thing. War is not a it's a very ugly thing. So I think we're going to see a lot of that as opposed to a great victory or something maybe from Tolkien, a big battle being won, at the last moment. We're going to see some very horrible consequences, and that's not going to be the solution.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point about that, and you even saw it in the battle, like when Jaime gets like the archers together, and of course, I guess some people go, "Oh, I hope they don't kill Daenerys," because they've already warned like one arrow can kill her.
Right.
But you're also looking like, imagine the courage it takes to sit there with a bow. I'm sure there's 20 of you with bows, but you got this dragon coming down on you. You got like one chance, and just the courage it takes not to just throw down your bow and run away, or Jaime to grab that spear and, as he says, like trying to win the war, trying to end it all. In that one shot, and just like kind of the courage. Like who would want to charge on a dragon?
Yeah, that was.
And I think it was the director. There's the director or the writer of that episode 4. And he was pretty pleased with the results, because he thinks, and I think he's right in this, is that you watch that battle and you're not sure who to root for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and for me, it's because you're looking at people fighting, of course, other people, but people also fighting monsters.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, and should our sympathies ever lie with monsters?
Yeah, I think that's
I hear that's one thing, I haven't seen it yet, but the war for the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah,
where I think it, and I would say that I guess this is a great job, is that they actually get you rooting against the people, because the apes are so sympathetic.
Right.
Yeah, but that would be against our instincts, because why?
Why would we want to see the end of the human race?
Absolutely, and if you know anything about chimpanzees, why would you ever want to see chimpanzees? They're horrible animals.
I blame Andy Serkis. His acting ability, his performance,
it makes me forget about that chimpanzee that ate the woman's face.
Right? Yeah, that's right.
Maybe never forget. Have her picture. Just down on a flag.
Nice. Yeah.
Caesar's like, they're never going to let that one go away. Yeah. Like, put the gorillas in charge. Why couldn't they put the gorilla in charge?
Of
Planet of the Apes?
Yeah, much more noble, more sympathetic. Yeah, definitely. We haven't had a lot of There's been minor skirmishes, but no guerrilla attacks that we can. Point to.
Is it Harambe? Yeah, Harambe.
Yeah, that wasn't.
Like there would have been no gray. If that had been a chimpanzee in that thing, there would be no gray area. It'd be like,
that's true.
Yeah, we shot him because he was eating the boy's face.
Right. Yeah. Immediately attacked
the boy. He mutilated the boy and just like. Yeah. They'd be like, I guess you should have shot him. Yeah. So, I don't know. So who do you think should be on the Iron Throne?
I don't know. I mean, it is really set up that you should be rooting for Daenerys, and that she's very sympathetic, and, she's gone through so much, and she's, accomplished some, very noble feats, the breaker of chains, the mother of dragons. She's done a lot of very noble things, but I mean, like you're saying, the means by which she is going to be doing this, and also, kind of the history of that world, like how dragons were used to rule previously, and how people. So,
why did the Targaryens, did they deserve Westeros? No, they came over with dragons and they conquered it.
Pretty much, there was nothing to oppose that, and so I mean, I definitely have a lot of sympathy for. I think because initially my sympathies were set up in that kind of humanist way that you're talking about with House Stark. They're noble. They do what they say they're going to do, even to a flaw. They will stick to their duty and their honor. And so you've had sympathy, and watching the children, kind of be scattered and then kind of reuniting does give you a lot of sympathy, and wants you to see, Jon Snow, but I'm not sure if he's. necessarily the best choice because he's always been a very reluctant leader. He's never been he's never done things that, and even from when he came back from the dead, he was changed, and not changed in a way. He was still reluctant and just said, "Now I leave the Night's Watch because I gave my life already. I'm no longer held by this duty." But it wasn't.
Well, he knows the fine print.
Right? Yeah. He was like, "Yeah, well, so it was my life that I gave."
He's like the Solomon right. Of the Game of Thrones world.
Yeah. So So I think I have more sympathy in that humanist way to see Jon Snow, but. I think that is a really interesting situation, and I think we're going to see some kind of compromise, and hopefully, like what Daenerys was saying about breaking the wheel, we're going to see something that's going to change, how they will decide the rule of the Seven Kingdoms.
She says that, but it's just repeating itself.
Yeah, that's
like the wheel's coming around because they're coming with 3 dragons,
right,
and there's an entitlement, like, bend the knee. It's like, well, there's all these undead. Okay, sure, but bend the knee,
right.
Get your armies. And they even show how easy it would be. That those crows fly over, and you're just thinking like 3 dragons. You just like, what can the army of the dead? Right. Are these super leapers or
they're
something?
Not going to resurrect Ash, so So that's it's very interesting because hopefully she will have a moment of realization, like see what her father did, see that she's doing the same.
You saw the looks. It's pretty obvious. Like looking at Jon Snow. Her realization is, I want to get with that.
Yeah.
I want me some Jon Snow, and I guess Jon Snow feels the same. So maybe playing that up. I don't know. They haven't really mentioned about her being barren. Like that's a big deal in the books. And they do mention it in season 1, but they don't dwell on it so much in the TV series. So I'm wondering if they're doing that so they can go, oh, ta-da! I guess it wasn't true.
Right.
I guess.
So basically, she's like one of those women that doesn't have children and just dresses her dogs in clothing. Like that's her She's mother of dragons, so it's kind of like a crazy cat lady. Except she has dragons.
They could be like a proto-democracy.
Yeah.
Because she can't have children. Then they marry, and then they. It's almost like a early Roman Empire where they adopt who's going to be the next leader, so they can choose the most noble of them all.
Right.
Yeah, they could do that, I suppose. You raised some good points about Jon Snow being a reluctant leader, and I think that's the only thing that really stops you from, I guess, rooting for him.
Yeah.
Because everything else, he gets all of the lines of "while we're all breathing," so he's got the big picture.
Yeah,
him and Sam Tarly and people like Davos, and he gets somebody like Davos to respect him and follow him, because Davos, especially in the books and a little bit in this TV series, like he's like the wise man, or the wise person. So when he loses faith in Stannis, that just seals it for Stannis, or starts to doubt Stannis. So, but now he supports Jon Snow. So the noblest person is supporting the second noblest person. So I think they've done that. So I think the way it's set up in both the books and in the TV series, Jon Snow should sit on the Iron Throne.
Yeah, right.
But they're probably going to do something where there's not going to be an Iron Throne.
Basically, the in that world, that throne is forged by the weapons of the enemies, in Dragonfire. So it is a symbol of dragon rule by dragon.
Right.
So I think abandoning the Iron Throne is probably a good move.
Like he would get it, and then he'd go, "Well, Winterfell's my home," and maybe they would split the kingdom or something, some sort of compromise like that.
Yeah, I'm curious.
A dark horse would be Jaime Lannister.
Oh, yeah.
Who, both in the books and the TV series, has probably had the most dramatic character arc.
Yeah, definitely.
Like in the TV, in the books, he starts in he's barely in the first book. Like he's just referred to, and he becomes. He's like a force of evil, or at the beginning, and probably the one that really kicked things off by pushing Bran out of the tower. And but then you see what he's really like, his motivations, and you see him becoming more intelligent and sort of exercising that part of himself.
Right.
And you see that also in the TV series where he's very big picture. Like, he wants to end the war because he doesn't want to see people die.
Mm-hmm.
He's finished with it, and he's over that. He's also now smart enough or cunning enough to outwit his brother, Tyrion.
Right.
So, I mean, they still, in the TV show, they make him much closer to Cersei. Or in the books, he's already abandoned her. Or seemingly abandoned her.
Right. Yeah.
Here he's like very much attached to her. He's very much still in love with her. So very much has that blind spot. But he's got the biggest arc, and I don't think, like, if Cersei was out of the picture and he sat on the Iron Throne, he's actually seen firsthand what a bad ruler is like.
Yeah.
And in the books, I can't remember if they mentioned it in the TV series, but in the books he even talks about when the Mad King was beating his own wife, and saying, like, shouldn't we step in and protect her? That's part of our job as the Kingsguard. And the other Kingsguard, I forget which one, says, but not from him.
Yeah, right.
Not from the king.
Right. Yeah.
So he really see, especially in the TV show, you see his relationship with his children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And that he, has genuine affection and love, or had. Now that they're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine that he would be a good ruler. Like, he wouldn't take it for granted.
Yeah, that's true.
He knows. Like, Daenerys has heard about what the Mad King was like, and can say, like, well, I'm not him.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be like him. And you always have to hear from people like Missandei and other characters, like maybe Barristan said something along those lines, like, you don't be like your father. You're not going to be like your father. But she didn't actually see it.
Right.
And she thinks that she's entitled to the throne through that blood, through the Mad King and all of that. And they also hear about Prince Rhaegar as well. But Jaime's seen what bad rulership is.
Yeah,
and he did something about it. And he's also seen his father and what both the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's got a better experience to draw from.
Yeah. And don't forget, we have the return of Gendry in this episode, so we have a Baratheon still about. He's a bastard.
Yeah.
But he does have a warhammer.
Which was ridiculous. Like,
and no one noticed that stag that he was ornately carving on the head of that. So he wouldn't be Baratheon by any chance, because you put this giant stag on this warhammer that you're. Yeah. I don't know who that would have been for.
Hiding in plain sight. Well, this hiding in plain sight, and what you're doing.
Yes. Right. Yeah. So. So that's interesting, the kind of return of that character.
Well, that. I don't know if that was fan service or it was always planned.
Yeah.
People were making the jokes about him rowing and where did he go.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's a bit. I mean, it's the Fellowship of the Thrones, I guess.
Right.
Yeah. So you can have my hammer. I was surprised to see the Hound and. Was it Lord Beric?
Yes. So now we have quite a motley crew.
So what did they do? Turn up to Eastwatch and say, well, he had a vision, and they threw him in jail, and...
Yeah, I guess,
Well, we're just waiting
here. Yeah, because that's right, they showed them, arriving, and I guess they just instantly imprisoned him.
And there's like, oh, where's the woman? Actually, why not bring Brienne, eh? They could have swung in.
Yeah.
Because now you have just a bunch of white guys going through the wall.
That's true. Yeah, that would have been the dream team. Yeah, and then you would have...
Or Arya, the super assassin.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's quite the...
Because, and just to get into other contenders for the throne, like, obviously Bran is out. Because he's made himself out, because he's won a throne.
Yeah.
Sansa seems to be being taken out because she's Littlefinger's disciple.
Right.
And especially in episode 5, with Arya calling her out, you realize, like, okay, you got Jon Snow and Sansa. No, it's Jon Snow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And then Arya's out because she's a bit crazy.
Yeah.
It was
She would just
sociopath.
have different faces on
Yeah.
every time
Yeah.
she was sitting on the throne. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And Dick and Tarly's out because he's Ash.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he was burnt. We have Sam though. Sam's got a nice sword. He's got a lot of books.
Yes, he does have that sword. Yeah. And he's out because he was mean to Gilly.
Yes, yeah, that's right. He shut her up when she was saying, "What does this word mean? Annulment."
I think that's a scene that maybe thought should be better than it is, but when you think about it, because the person writes an annulment of Prince Rhaegar, but then everything else is secret. He's just gonna write an annulment with Prince Rhaegar and then a remarriage in Dorne, but you've already mentioned Rhaegar, so of course you may as well mention who he's being annulled from,
Right.
because he was only knowingly married to one person, and you've already said he's annulled, so why wouldn't you say who he remarried? But you just write in a secret ceremony in Dorne. Like, I mean, was this, if he's writing all of his shits and stuff, was this something that he thought the High Septon thought was going to be read by a lot of people? And so you may as well write everything down, or if it's super secret, then you write your code.
Right, code. Yeah, it
your
should be coded. Yeah.
annulment of PR
Right.
to. Jeez, what was it? What was his wife's name? Something Dorn, of course.
Yeah.
LD.
Yeah.
Yeah, LD. And then he married LS.
Yes.
Yeah. In a ceremony in D.
Yes.
See, that's simple.
Yeah.
But of course, you got to telegraph that to the. Like, why couldn't he have cut her off in mid-sentence? It says there's a secret annulment from Prince Rhaegar to. Shut up! I don't care.
Yeah.
Because if the name Prince Rhaegar is not going to trigger Sam's interest or spark Sam's interest, then
nothing. Yeah.
yeah, you might as well make it where he cuts her off or something like that.
Right.
And then I don't know why he gave it to the. Did he give it to the kid? I thought that the kid would start ripping up the pages.
Yeah, what he was transcribing, he gave to the kid.
Yeah,
right.
that's so Sam. He's like, I now hate books.
Right.
Throw it to the kid, or did he give it to the kid because then he packs everybody up? So then he's like, okay, obviously that kid was reading this book about steps and poops.
Right.
So we'll keep that one. No. So I think that's gonna turn up.
Right.
But yeah, so Tarly, I think he's just too timid. Yeah, to sit on the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he too much of a Jon Snow loyalist.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
He would definitely back.
Yeah. But again, that's one more thing in favor of Jon Snow, in that, I mean, you just get in the list of the most noble characters in the show, and in the top 5, I guess Tarly is going to be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he supports Jon Snow.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, so it's interesting, and we when we were talking about the kind of humanist aspect of this, and we have the White Walkers and we have the return of dragons to this world. I think that's an interesting thing to have in fantasy, because what we're used to mostly is the fantasy world, the magical aspects of the world fading and going away and being weak and forgotten. And there is, people don't believe in the White Walkers. They're talking about them as just a myth, as something that doesn't really exist, just to scare children. But obviously it's a formidable army that's approaching them. And it's interesting that the magic aspects of this world are going to be their most difficult things to overcome, and their most difficult things to kind of reckon with in how that's going to.
I wonder if they're going to make it interconnected, where the series is called A Song of Ice and Fire, and Melisandre even said, I've brought the ice and fire together.
Right.
Or now it's together, so that's great. Man, it'd be nice to see her come back.
Yeah.
She's
Definitely.
there for that one scene and then gone. And she had a great scene with Varys.
Right.
Yeah.
And where she said she would die in Westeros.
Yeah, so she did say she's going to go away and she's going to come back, but that's always said, we don't want another Gendry,
Yeah, right.
Put her in a rowboat for a while. Yeah, so she... but I wonder if they're so connected that when the dragons help overcome the White Walkers and killed all the undead, if that then will kill the magic a bit,
Right.
so that
right.
they'll be the last dragons.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And hey, are they all male?
I
Like they're all named after men.
think so. Yeah.
So if they're all male, then
Then
well,
that- yeah,
that's
that's
it. That's
it,
it for
yeah.
the dragons, unless they're asexual.
Right. Unless the dragons just make eggs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting to see. But I think that's an interesting part of this world. Let alone the kind of the cutthroat and the kind of the sexuality and the things that we see in this that you don't see in a lot of fantasy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That the magic is something to deal with, and it won't go away. And it's,
Right.
it's,
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly Tolkien-esque
Mm-hmm.
from his experiences in World War One, where it's the end of one world.
Right. And kind of moving.
Yeah,
into
and
a new
and to
era,
beat that, like just like for France and Britain to beat Germany, I mean they can do it.
Mhm.
But it's going to cost them everything.
Yeah.
And then they do it, and now it's a new world, and then the new age arrives. And a lot of fantasy borrowed from that, or they borrow from the more directly from games like Dungeons and Dragons, where magic's all around and there's no real transition. It's just here's the story, and it's set in this level of magic, and that level of magic is going to stay. But yeah, you're right. Like Game of Thrones is from a different tradition where it's everything's coming back. Everything old is coming back.
Right. And so but I think there's a lot even in the stories of some of the characters. The sins and the mistakes of their past do kind of come back
I mean
on them.
the Jon Snow story. I mean, Rhaegar and is it Lysa? Lyanna Stark.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Lyanna Stark.
Yeah, that's true. And even like the forest, not the first men, but the forest character,
Children of the Forest.
Children of the Forest. So they're revealing that they created, the
Yeah,
White
it's too bad
Walkers.
they're all gone. Eh?
Yeah.
That was really interesting, and the characters that they had, like they were only on the screen briefly, but you wanted to.
Oh yeah, very compelling in that connection to that kind of origin world, that original world, and but that was so that's very interesting. So it was like an early mistake, that's the old world to oppose men. So that was their solution to keeping men under control.
Right.
Is the
So
White
do you
Walkers.
want to keep repeating mistakes? So do you want to put somebody like Daenerys to bring it back?
Yeah, right.
Put something like that back on the throne.
Yeah.
Because in the same cycle, it's like you got 3 dragons, you conquer it, but you're, and Tarly even said it, like you're not from Westeros.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you don't often root for the invader.
Right. I think that's true.
Yeah.
But as long as she makes Brienne the head of the King's Guard or the Queen's Guard, then she can behead her when she's out of control. Daenerys can be beheaded by Brienne, and we can continue that cycle.
Yeah. I wonder if Jon Snow. Well, Jon Snow does have. I mean, Brienne is kind of sworn to Sansa Stark,
Right.
and Arya Stark, I suppose. But I mean, I suppose she supports Jon Snow because he's now King of the North. So there you go, another top 5 noble person.
There you go. Yeah, right.
Like, what are you gonna do? You can't kill them off. I mean, obviously Jon would have to take the knee because he didn't really refuse to take the knee.
Right.
He's just like, I want to do this first.
He was just being a little coy about it.
Mm.
So it's interesting, and I'm curious how they're going to resolve the TV show, and then what that's actually going to mean in the books. Like, how that's going to deviate.
It's so divergent. Like Jaime is in mortal danger right now in the books,
right,
in a completely different way.
Yeah.
And they're still in this holding pattern in
Yeah.
that side of the world. But you brought up a good point for the episode, is that the dragons have arrived. People know that there are dragons, but people seem to be pretty blasé about it.
Yeah.
In a way.
Right.
Where in the books and a little bit in the TV series, the other side of the world, because it's brought magic back. I mean, the dragons are a big deal.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's talking about it. Where
Yeah, that's true. I'm surprised there isn't some sort of dragon cult or some sort of, people that are seeing this as salvation, seeing this as a sign, because this is, and Jon Snow has that speech that, this is something we thought was impossible, we'd never see again. So normal people, common people, should be reacting in pretty big ways. And
and that would be a good way to bring in some, I guess, some conflict or a more gray into the story, and that it could be like you were saying, like the cult of a dragon, people worshiping these dragons as salvation, but also people doing the opposite and thinking like it's a doomsday. I mean, they killed the High Septon, but they didn't kill religion in the world.
Right.
And he was actually an intriguing character because you did get to see or get more insight into the religion of the world, of the religion of the Seven Kingdoms. And we do get a little bit of the Lord of Light still, but without Melisandre, we're getting a lot less.
I'm really curious to see how the writing and how they handle this, because they do have a lot. I mean, they have 6 seasons of very successful television and successful books that they have to kind of end in a satisfying way.
Yeah, they don't want to be lost.
Yeah, right. And they just kind of it was all.
Was that a deliberate pun? No, I don't know. Yeah. Even I didn't mind the ending of Battlestar Galactica, but people complained about that.
Yeah.
But they don't want to. Yeah, they don't want to be thrown on a list of unsatisfying endings.
Right.
And maybe they want to make Daenerys more complicated, so she comes on, and then it's kind of, well, we want to see a little bit more because we want to see if it is a successful rule, or she becomes mad. Whereas if you put Jon Snow on, everybody's like, oh, all right, and they all live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Because Jon Snow was all about the people.
Right. Yeah. So people would be. Yeah.
So the dark horse, Jaime Lannister.
Yes, we'll have to see.
Yeah.
He's just got one more queen in his way. Two queens. If he has to, Cersei and Daenerys, and then he's got the throne.
But he's the Kingslayer. He's not. He's not the Queenslayer. No.
The unisex ruler.
He would get Brienne. Brienne would go over to his side.
Oh yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And one person who we're not mentioning, Tyrion.
Oh right, that's right.
And probably the most satisfying thing about episode 5 is when he started his like "I'm a monster" speech again, and Jaime just cuts him off and just what do you want? Just get it to. In the early seasons, everybody was like, who should sit on the Iron Throne? And it was like, oh, Tyrion. But now they make him, where he's got the one thing, he's got his smarts. And he does have somewhat of a noble character. But his main thing was his intellect, and now he doesn't have that, because he's giving the bad advice, apparently, to Daenerys.
Right.
So who should sit on the Iron Throne?
I don't know. I mean, of course, like you're saying, the satisfying ending would be Jon Snow, but I like the Jaime Lannister idea. I think that's very interesting. That would create a very complicated. I mean, but from what you've seen, him losing his hand, and there's so much that's changed about that character that it would not be a bad choice. I mean, it would be very interesting. It would be a very interesting resolution.
Prediction: no. I would be satisfied with Jaime Lannister sitting on the Iron Throne. But the prediction is no. His arc ends with him possibly killing Cersei.
Right.
Yeah, in favor of just ending it all. Not ending, like ending the conflict.
Yeah, right.
And that will be his noble thing. Perhaps spared. Perhaps becomes. I don't know if there will be any point to having the wall, but maybe taking the Black and becoming the Lord Commander.
Wow. Yeah.
Prediction.
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's the worst thing about being in the Black Watch besides the cold is not being able to take a wife or anything, and he doesn't care about those things because he only cares about Cersei. Yeah.
That's true. So if he's confronted with something so evil that she wants to do, and he sees himself as the only person that can stop that. Yeah.
Prediction: Jon Snow, Daenerys.
Yeah, but some sort of compromise.
Some sort of compromise. Right. I don't think Daenerys should be on the throne. Jon Snow should be. One reason is, and I guess to the credit of the TV series, is they really have a lot of strong female characters. Like I think in the TV show, the book series, we're only starting to see Sansa come into her own. Like it's just early, but she is coming into her own.
Yeah, right.
Arya is pretty much the same. Cersei, they've made a much better character in the TV series in the sense that she's stronger, more complex,
and identifying with her father very directly.
Yeah, and you can actually see her being a ruler and see how she can keep staying on top. Whereas in the book series, she's pretty weak and silly.
Yeah.
So there's so many strong characters that it would be strong female characters to not have a female ruler. I think would be at odds with the way the TV show is going.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it'll be what, Jon Snow and Daenerys holding hands, a dragon melting the Iron Throne, a rainbow, and then it snows for the first time in King's Landing. Some beautiful ending like that.
The snows. Oh yeah. So winter has come.
Winter has come, but they have Christmas now for the first time.
Yeah. Okay. But we'll have It could be something like no. It will be the snows finally hit. King's. Well, I don't know. Is the death of the White Walkers? Is that going to affect the seasonal cycle? Let's say it doesn't. Let's say the seasons is kind of a natural phenomenon, not a magical one. So the snows hit King's Landing. Jon Snow says something like, or somebody's familiar with his, maybe Daenerys says, "Oh, winter has come finally."
And then Iris
and something like, "I look forward to the spring," or something like. Together we'll see another spring.
There you go. Yeah. There we go.
All right.
There we go.
That was on the spot. I mean, on
right.
the spot, writing this.
But it'll be scary though how true that may actually come.
Yeah.
Because it will. It's interesting. There is a little bit of a kind of battle of the genders as far as like showing the strength of a character. That the strength of the women characters, the strength of the male characters, and having them kind of. Opposing each other, and there was a feeling in definitely season 6 where the strong women characters were uniting and giving each other knowing looks and like.
And they destroyed that.
They did.
I mean, actually, they had to do it, and it's probably good because it's surprising because they had pretty much all the female characters most of the female characters banding together to create this unstoppable force against one of the only other female characters, like or Cersei.
Right.
And they just wiped that out with like the Greyjoys.
They took that right out. Yeah.
Euron Greyjoy, who's like showing why he is who he is, and rightly feared. Like it just.
And why haven't they even mentioned him? Like with Cersei's kind of panic about what's going on. How come they haven't mentioned? They still have a fleet. They still have.
Yeah, but what good's a fleet going to do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. They'll burn on the water and they'll jump into the water.
Yeah,
that's true.
Why aren't they sending the dragons to burn the fleet?
Yeah, that's true too. That would solve that problem. Yeah,
they know that because they sent the dragons to destroy the other fleet, but then now they're like the Unsullied are trapped by wooden ships. Oh, if only we had fire, like portable fire that flew.
That would help, yeah.
That could destroy an entire fleet.
We could ride on its back and kind of supervise. Yeah, that'd be great if they
had. So why don't we send the dragons? Well, it's only worked once, very effectively.
Yes.
There's no guarantee it'll work again. I didn't even think of that. And probably the writer's like, oh yeah, we better write that into episode 6.
Right.
Explain that one away.
I love all the fast travel options they're building into season 7. They're not letting anybody be on a ship for too long.
Did you catch the reference to time where Sam was like, yeah, a few years ago, I let him through the, and you're like, oh, was that a few years? I guess that explains why he's had that growth spurt.
Yeah,
kind of.
Right. Yeah. That's true. And the son, the baby, the
baby's kind of big now too. Yeah.
So it was definitely years. He's a toddler.
Yeah. Like how long did it take? Does it take to sail across the Nero Sea? I think it's supposed to only take like a week or something. Yeah, it's pretty close. But. So that's our predictions. Yeah. For what we think it should be and what we think it will be.
Right.
So who do you think should be on the Iron Throne?
Yeah. Please let us know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give us a like. And if you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and notifications if you want to be informed of new videos coming out.
Yep. All right. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye.
Bye.